Okay, next video. Hello guys and gals, my name is... Okay. Dude, what the heck, Scott? Scott! What are you doing with my chair? What the heck? Hello guys and gals, my name is Jack Bolin, aka the Gameboy, and I would like to welcome you to the Mr. Worldly Wiseman editorial. And I have apparently lost my chair privileges. Now, y'all might be wondering, who is this kid? Why the heck is he talking to me? I am a conservative, Southern Baptist white boy, who is now an elder's kid apparently. And I may or may not go to the same church as my boss, Scott Sowers. But why am I here? Just to suffer? Yes and no. I'm here to do what everyone loves, reviewing video games, while also analyzing Christianity within it. And for today's video, we will be looking at Among the Sleep, which is by far the best horror game I've played. But why is that? Let's jump into it. Among the Sleep follows a 2-year-old no-name McGerald on his birthday as we open up the story of him and his mother having cake together, the mother suddenly being pulled away by a knock at the door, which we later find out was the father bringing the child a gift. The mother returns, gift in hand, and takes the child up to their room to open it. They begin to walk towards the room as a black fog begins to chase them, only stopping when they reach their destination. But before we can open up the present, we are interrupted by a phone call, and the mother rushes to it rather quickly. Later, the child is able to get his hands on the box and opens it to find that the toy inside has come to life and was hiding in the toy box. The two play around the room for a bit until Teddy encourages them to go in the closet. Keep this in mind. And after a short adventure that seems pointless but really isn't, the child is found by his mother and is put to bed as she sings him to sleep. A few hours go by and the boy wakes up to see his teddy bear being snatched from his bed and taken away to the laundry machine. Most likely the mother was trying to take him and wash him without interrupting the child's playtime. But the boy goes after his new companion and frees him from the washer. He goes to find his mother after this, being scared by the thunder, only to find a dark, shadowy figure waiting for him instead. The boy flees to the basement and into an old playhouse store down there. He decides that he must now find a way to save his mother and sets off along with Teddy to retrieve 3 specific memories to help lead the child back to his mother. But as it goes in every horror game, you can't just walk by without any trouble. Throughout the 3 sections in the game, you are chased by a monster who takes different forms of the child's fears. In the first section, a playground, there isn't actually a monster chasing you at all, but you get the hint very quickly that you aren't alone. I remember playing through this section and just feeling uneasy. You have this constant feeling of something's eyes always on you. I actually hid under the bench when I got stuck because I was so scared that something was going to pop out at me. A very good opening to this nightmarish wonderland. After you collect 6 toy owls, you are allowed to get up onto this play structure and climb your way to the top to a bridge leading to the next memory. The second section is a broken down library where you are being chased by a witch covered in tree bark and wearing a white, worn down dress. The witch towers over the child, sending him into a panic state every time she gets near. And after a very stressful game of hide and seek, the boy and Teddy reach this peaceful area of the forest and retrieve memory number 3. And finally, for my favorite section of the game, the twisted basement. This section to me makes me feel like the kid is finally starting to wake up from his nightmarish hallucination, seeing things almost normally. This section combines the previous 2 monster encounters, making for an edge-of-your-seat experience. The whole section you get that feeling of being watched, and this time it's a bit worse now that you know what's out there. And this time, if you make a loud noise at all, you'd better find a place to hide and fast. And what chases you in this section is a giant coat monster. Which doesn't sound scary, until he starts chasing you.
Good, okay.
Like, you don't even hear him coming either. Within seconds of you breaking the bottle, he spawns in behind you and just starts floating towards the player. Which is genius. But getting back to the story, we've traversed through one last nightmare land, and finally end up with all 4 memories. And then we place it back into the weird contraption in the playhouse and end up finding the mother, and all is well again. No, that's not what happened. Before the child is able to reach the pipe, he is abducted by the coat monster and wakes up in his crib to find that it was Teddy all along pulling the strings, luring the child to his doom. The game ending with the child being cooked alive. Oh, wait, hang on. No, that's not it. That's the scrap ending. My bad, sorry. No, what ends up happening is the mother ends up taking Teddy, ripping his arm off as the child is left falling into the black abyss. He wakes up and picks up Teddy's arm, and all is revealed. As he walks through the abyss, lights are guiding his way until he eventually ends up finding her, his mother. But something's off. She's dismissive towards him, walking away every time her son would get close to her. And it's revealed that she is an alcoholic, chasing her son in a drunken fit, becoming the monster that we have been avoiding this entire game. And once the child sees this, he runs to the only safe place he can think of, his closet. His mind still in the nightmare, we return to the playhouse one final time and place the final memory into the contraption, where the door opens and the child finally starts to wake up. Once he opens the closet door, all 4 memories are waiting for him, daylight shining in through the windows, everything seeming normal. We head downstairs to see that all the windows are closed, and we hear the mother crying as we approach the kitchen. Once we step foot in the doorway, we are met with the mother sitting on the floor, crying, looking up and holding Teddy as a bottle rolls away from her and towards us. The boy goes to retrieve his toy, but the mother pushes him away, exclaiming, "Stay away from me!" Just then, there's a knock at the door, and we go to see who it is, the game closing with the father coming to take his son away from the nightmare. So yeah, what turned out to be a very good horror game turned into a very emotional roller coaster at the end. I remember watching a YouTuber named Markiplier play this game 5 years ago, and I remember getting to that part, and at first I didn't really feel anything because I didn't really understand the totality of what had just been revealed. But when I watched it again recently, having a better understanding this time, once I got to that part, I just felt this sinking feeling in my heart. And as I played the game myself, knowing what was going to happen just made me more anxious. Knowing the big twist at the end just made me more frightened because all I could really think about was that your mother, the one person you can run to for help and protection, is the one chasing you and trying to hurt you. The son is so scared of his mother and what she becomes when she's intoxicated that he goes out of his way to hide from her every chance he gets. It's why Teddy encourages the boy to go hide in the closet at the beginning of the game. It was the child's own thoughts coming through Teddy through the voice of his father. But unfortunately, the father isn't really a saint either. In a story expansion for the game, it's revealed why the mother started drinking was because her husband was always involved in his work, barely spending time with his wife and child, her only comfort a bottle of wine. And in a drunken fit, she stumbles into her husband's office and begins to fight with him, ending up with him hitting her and her taking her son and leaving. And what the father did wasn't okay either. Colossians 3:19, "Husbands, love your wives and never treat them harshly." The husband had no right to lay his hand on his wife in a violent way, but the wife had no right to turn to alcohol and abandon her child. Now, the father does seem to feel sorry for his actions towards his wife, which is good, but the wife, on the other hand, clearly has no remorse for her sins, continuing to indulge in them. So all of that just raises the question, what's going to happen to the kid? Well, from what we can go off of, he most likely grew up with a distant father and mother, one consumed with work and one consumed with alcohol. He'll probably have unresolved trauma from his early life with his mother, and he might find himself in the same situation as her, resorting to alcohol or even drugs to cope with his troubles. Among the Sleep portrays how alcoholism and work addiction can destroy a person's life, whether it be actually losing their lives, losing their friends, or losing their families. Reviewing this game was personally really hard to do, because one, the heartbreaking ending it has, but it was also hard because in a way I can kind of relate to this kid and what he went through. So playing this game kind of brought back some memories. But getting back to it, this game shows us also that parents would rather do literally anything else than raise their kids. Now, thankfully there are still parents who love and raise their children, but those types of parents are slowly fading. But what do I mean when I say truly good parents? A truly good and righteous parent is one who brings their children up in the faith and teaches them God's word. Deuteronomy 11:18-19. So commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these words of mine. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Teach them to your children. Talk about them when you are at home, when you're on the road, and when you're going to bed, and when you are getting up. A righteous parent is someone who loves and cherishes their children, protecting them from any harm that might come their way. I know people who aren't Christians who are capable parents. They love their kids, care for them, and give them a good life. But without Christ in their lives, they'll end up in eternal damnation. Revelations 21:8. But cowards, unbelievers, the corrupt, murderers, the immoral, those who practice witchcraft, idol worshippers, and all liars, their fate is the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death. Without Christ in your family, it's meaningless. Marriage without Christ is meaningless. Marriage is the physical representation of Jesus' relationship with his bride, the church. So when you take Christ out of the picture of your marriage, you're setting yourselves up for failure. So to quickly recap before we move on, a good parent is someone who follows Christ and teaches their children to follow and obey him as well. Meaning, the first thought of a father or mother should be sharing the gospel to their children, because it is the only thing in this world that matters. But nowadays, children are expendable, something to be thrown away when done with. What? I'm pregnant? Well, time to shove a deadly needle into him. What? The kid's ugly? Well, I gotta disown them now. What? The kid has a disability? Well, I gotta make this all about me and how hard my life is raising this kid. Well, I don't want to get canceled by the culture, so... Oh, I know! I'll groom my son into becoming non-binary! Are you kidding me? Children are not tools to be thrown away when done with. They are fellow image bearers of our God. Psalms 139 verses 13 to 16. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was being woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. All of us, men, women, and children, were fearfully and wonderfully made by God. So when you go out and destroy your body with this gender swapping care, it's shameful and it's like you slapping your father in the face. And the same still applies for children. Parents are mutilating and grooming their children to fit in with the culture. Again, children are not some pawns in your twisted little game. They are a gift from God. Psalms 127 verses 3 to 5. Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. Children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hand. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. He will not be put to shame when he confronts his accusers at the city gates. I don't see how people could see children as a burden. Sure, they can drive you up the wall, but in the end, children are the greatest joy a parent can have. So it breaks me when I see a parent neglect their child. I personally know a family who completely disowns their kids, only paying attention to them when they want to look good. But as Christians, how should we fight back against this? Well, first and most importantly, stand firm in your faith and raise your children, like I said in last video, in the faith and not in the flesh. Because realistically, we as humans can't fight back against these ideologies on our own. Because no matter what anyone wants to say, without God's word and without God in general, it is just simply two sides who think they're right. You can't make sense of anything. We only truly know right from wrong because of God. He has placed his law on our hearts and has given us his instructions through his words. So the only way to fight against our culture and protect our children is to stand firm on truth and preach the good news of Jesus Christ. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but it worked for the apostles, and they went on and saved thousands of lives. So never underestimate the power of God's word. Thank you all for putting up with me today. I know I can be a kind of a handful sometimes. But before you leave, why not share these videos with your friends? We want to get these messages to as many people as we can. And before you leave, also, why not subscribe, hit that bell, like, and, maybe write potatoes in the comments, but, write whatever you want. I've been the Gameboy, and I'll see you later. Peace. Hello guys and gals, my name is Jack Bolin, aka the Gameboy, and I would like to welcome... Oh, wait. I officially got air conditioning in this cave. And now I lost it.